and welcome to Guy's Library. I'm Francesca Catlow, your podcast host. Today we're talking about September's read, In Another Life, and we're chatting with the author, Imogen Clark. Hi, Imogen. Welcome to Guy's Library.
Hi, lovely to be here.
I think what we need to start with was one of the questions from one of the readers, which is how do you go from an anecdote about a family member, like an unknown mystery family member, turning up at a funeral to ending up in Sicily? How do you make this link? Like, what an amazing creativity.
Well, that's our magic, isn't it, of telling stories. But really, I had the initial idea that I picked up from a friend about a random person turning up at a funeral. And then I had to come up with some reason why they didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
And then I had to, so there was that. And then I had to work out um, why the sisters would not have spoken because did they fall out, was one a social climber, was one trying to hide her past, and so I pieced all those things together and I decided that I needed someone to be running from one of them to be running from somewhere, and it had to be a fairly serious threat, and then he just sort of drifted into Sicily. and, I did quite a lot of research about sort of mafia things. I watched The Godfather. I read The Godfather as well. I did quite a lot of research about the stuff that was going on in the 80s,
Mm.
and I spent a chunk of time there as well in the 80s.
Oh,
And so it just
really?
sort of, yeah, yeah. So when I was, I mean, I say a chunk of time, a few summers, when I was about the same age as Natalie, because my best friend lived there. And so I used to go and stay with her in the summer holidays. And so I knew quite a lot about what it was like to be in Sicily at that time. I didn't realize quite how dangerous it was in Sicily until I started to do the research for the novel. And then I thought, oh, that's really interesting because me and my friend had no clue, and Natalie has no clue because she's new. So by the time I'd done all these bits of research and combined my own personal experiences, and had a story that needed someone who was running, it all kind of clicked together.
I just love that you were actually there at that time and have that personal experience. I think that's really, really amazing because obviously I read your acknowledgements at the back and you don't mention that actually you kind of were in her position in a distant sort of
Yeah, it's like yeah, kind of.
fascinating.
So yeah, and I think certainly a lot of my books, there's an element of something that's happened to me in them, either a thought process or an actual experience or a place I've been, because those are the things that stick with you, and those are the things that I think that they come across as being authentic because there is an element of authenticity about them when you're writing it.
Yeah, I definitely think having a kernel of something that either you or someone you know and you've talked to a lot, if you have that in a book, it does make a difference because it grows more naturally and organically from something that you have knowledge of. It's really interesting as well because like there was discussions when we were like discussing in another life, which I have sitting there. Um, there was this talk of like it could have so easily been a predictable book, but it wasn't at all. And it was like you could have gone down like this direction, and we could have gone like, yeah, we know what's happening. But you kind of like I feel like you did this beautiful job of like making us all go like, we think this is gonna happen. We're so clever. And then it was like, oh no, this like we're really dumb. And there was a lot of that conversation. And one of the questions was like, did you have alternative endings to the book? Like, did you see it always going the way it went?
This is such a funny question because I never have it in my head.
I
And I
really,
think the reason, because I make it up as I go along. And so I think one of the reasons why my books are not predictable is because I don't know what's going to happen.
I love that.
So, so there isn't, so I don't know. And so one day this might happen and the next day I might do this and we go in a completely different direction. And sometimes it's wild and ridiculous but most of the time I kind of hold it, it's like creating a crossword puzzle when you've only got the answers and not the questions. And so so I didn't have any alternative endings because I got to the end and that was the end.
Yeah.
And I knew I know a little bit at the start. So at this one, I knew that I wanted someone to turn up at the funeral. I had the characters. I always have the characters.
Yeah.
So I knew who Bronte was going to be and that she was going to be a bit henpecked either side by her siblings.
Oh yeah.
And then I'd had to work out the thing we just mentioned about Sicily, because I just needed somewhere to start that part of the novel. But the rest of it, the fact that Loretta was a journalist and that they lived in London and all, I just that just kept coming day by day. And
Wow.
so that's how I write, and that's how I end up with the stories that I end up with.
Well, it worked really well and it gelled really beautifully. I mean, I really enjoyed this book. As I say, I was feeling like I was going to be all clever and then I wasn't at all. So that's always a nice feeling, like as a reader, you want to feel like engaged and you're guessing and then not actually really know what's happening, which I think is really, really magical when you're reading a book. It's funny about saying about the siblings and being henpecked. So that kind of leads me onto one of the quotes that was put into the group chat about the book, which was, "Who needs brothers anyway?" Was something that you put in there. So I was really interested in like in the book you have a lot of different like sibling dynamics. You have like the past and the present sibling dynamics, and actually the role of siblings is a really really important part of this book. It's like at the heart of the whole book. You have all these amazing things going on around it, but without sibling influence, the book kind of doesn't exist without siblings. So I know you have like children. Do you have siblings yourself?
I have a brother, a younger brother, so I only have one sibling, which
Who
is very
needs brothers
disappointing.
anyway?
Exactly. He's hopeless. No, that's not true. He's lovely. He's lovely. But I have always been fascinated by siblings, specifically by sisters, because I don't have one. And
Yeah.
then I have four children, and there are three girls and a boy, and they're really close.
Oh,
And obviously, they all have sisters, and so that kind of has informed. All my books are about family drama,
mm,
and obviously, if it's family, the chances are it's going to be sibling.
yeah.
Sometimes mother daughter, but mainly it's sibling. And I just think it's so interesting. And I think this one I was particularly looking a bit at if there was any truth in the middle child syndrome, and the elder child being bossy and control. I'm the eldest. The elder child being bossy and controlling, and the younger child not really caring because no one notices what they're doing anyway, because all the parenting's been put in the first one, all that kind of stuff. And so
I'm the
I think that's
youngest,
why.
so
Oh, well, yeah, you think, yeah, my youngest basically dragged himself up. Yeah, I think all your angst, all your parenting angst tends to go into the first one, and that either makes them super high achieving or super controlling or super anxious
I'm
or
thinking of my
or
own children now. I'm going like,
they're
when you're a
they're
parent.
generalizations, but they do give me the opportunity to think about who my characters might be, and in a way that hopefully makes them relatable.
Yeah.
Because as the elder child, I did recognize quite a lot of the things that Mark does in myself, and
That's really
and
interesting. I
yeah,
find that really, really interesting.
endlessly fascinating.
Yeah, I think, a lot of their personalities, the main characters, were instructed by the sibling relationships. That held huge amounts of influence over who they are as people. And I found that really interesting. And Mark's character particularly, like he was like it just so I'm like going, but I mean, I'm the youngest. I would be the one going, oh, shut up.
Yeah, Annie, yeah.
Yeah, I did really enjoy reading about the dynamics and the personality traits that came out because of it. Um, I don't want to spoil like any end bits for people or anything who decide to watch this who haven't been part of the book club this month, but even at the end, the different dynamics that are like pushed forward from other family members coming through and doing this and that. I don't know. I just really liked the way things rounded off, the way the family dynamics, the way it all comes together, the little shifts that are the growth of characters throughout the book. I mean, as you said, you're kind of making it up as you go along. I have that same vibe. So, but equally, you've got that the character so solid that you've really created something genuine. So by the end, you feel that growth, and I think that was really, really, really impressive. But also with this book, I'm going to grab it off my shelf now. Slightly disheveled from my puppy Adonis. You may not be able to see, but luckily, he only ripped out this page. I was so upset. But oh, I'm getting attacked by one of your other books, just jumping off the shelf at me there. Um, yeah, he came running up to me looking he was like, hey, and then he went all like sad, and I didn't know it. Oh, I'm getting the book really is jumping out at me. So talk about me. Stay there. Um, yeah, he looked all sad, and I was like, oh no, what's wrong? And then afterwards, I find this has been, yeah, bitten and whatnot. So that's why. So bunches of my tabs got ripped out, which was really unhelpful. Okay, so you can't really have a discussion about this book without having a little talk about mental health, in my opinion, because it's another that and siblings to me are really, really key parts. So I just want to read you some of your own book, if you don't mind me doing that. Only like
Fire away.
a bit. Okay, so this is Natalie talking. So she says, we're so insignificant. We thrash about thinking how terribly important we are, that what we're doing is vital, but actually it's just rubbish. And she goes on to say, we're so very trivial. Now, this I like highlight, I put my little book tab in, I'm like underlining it. I think it's like really key to her character. Like that section, that and her sibling relationships, like feels really key. I mean, what do you think? When I read that back to you, what do you think was like, how did you want to take it? Was that important part of what you were thinking, like that section? How did that resonate back to you, I guess, is my question.
I wanted the contrast between Loretta and Natalie to be marked. And obviously, Loretta, eldest child, very driven, exactly what she wanted, went for it, got it, perfect. And Natalie is not that person, and she isn't motivated in the same way that Loretta is. And so that has kind of got misinterpreted, I think, as being a bit flaky and a bit directionless. And I don't mean misinterpreted by the reader, but by her parents and by those around her. And I kind of, as I wrote her, I felt she was playing more into that kind of role that was being created for her. Second child, not so driven, in the shadow of her sister, all those kinds of things. So when she responds to the tragedy that they have in their life, when she responds to that in a different way to the way Loretta responds, then I imagine that she would then have a lot of time to take stock about where she wanted her life to go. Um, and she's right, we all beetle about being extraordinarily busy and important, but actually, the world's been here a long time and will be a long time after we have gone. And I think it doesn't do any harm to remember that. And particularly, I think if faced with the high achieving people in the world, they are high achieving, but they will be gone just like you. And you sort of
Yeah.
set yourself up against those people, and then feel as if you're failing in some way or inadequate in some way, when actually we're all not all of us, no matter what we achieve, are all fairly insignificant, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think her journey as a person throughout the book was both fascinating, but it resonates. Like it's an extreme version of what most people may experience, but that's obviously what you want in a fictional novel. You want it to be interesting and dynamic, which it definitely was. Um, but there are those parts of her that I just kind of sit there and I go like, yeah, like reading that, I'm going, this is exactly how I feel like in life. You do oh, I've got to work, you run around being busy and whatnot, and then and like you have to sit down and go, well, what's really important here? Like what
Yeah.
really matters going forward? And she obviously dwells on that a little bit too much, which I've also done in the past. So I feel like really it struck so many chords in my heart. So it was really well written and really well put together, and I really enjoyed seeing those aspects as well coming forwards because I think sometimes even when you've got this like blessed life, sometimes even that can be hard. Even when things are going well, she has this like niggle in the background because well something will go wrong eventually. And sometimes
Yeah.
those people can still slip into something else because I mean that's sometimes when I find things the hardest is when everything's going too well. Everything's going too well. Something
Yeah.
bad's going to happen.
So you're just waiting for the bad thing. It must just be around the corner. And some people don't have that, but lots of people do, I think. And well, it must be my turn for bad luck now, or it must be my which is bonkers because that's not how it works at all. But you kind of think, well, I've had my quota of good stuff, so it must be the crap stuff that's coming next. And yeah,
Honestly,
anyway,
that
yeah,
is literally what I do in my head. I'm like, okay, because we very much with the children, we're like, karma is our like religious
yeah,
aspect in a way, because I want them to understand being kind comes back to you. But then it gets a bit
absolutely.
obsessive. It's like, well, I've done something bad, something dreadful's
Yeah,
going to happen. And the kids are
but it's
like
not like
freaking out because they've done something naughty. Well, karma's going to get me. Oh, I do, there's a balance in here somewhere, I think.
it's
Balance.
important that we think about it, though, isn't it? I think it's important that we don't just take things for granted and we don't assume that because it was like this yesterday, it's going to be like this tomorrow. And I think, I think it's the fact that they had their lives are turned upside down overnight. Um,
Mm,
just gave me the opportunity then to explore that whole idea that you really don't know what's around the corner, and how would you react if your life was suddenly entirely different. And it's a tried and tested trope for books because obviously it's an interesting idea. But I just wanted to think about that a little bit. And I think obviously the reason why I set that whole scene in Stonehenge was because that's been there quite a long time. And it just made, I
yeah.
thought, she's more likely to think about those kinds of bigger universal issues, or at least voice them to her sister,
Mm.
while they're in the presence of this incredible edifice.
Yeah, I think it was the perfect backdrop. So, like, it was really well thought out. I know you say you're a pantser, not a plotter, but it was still really, really well thought out. Which also brings up to the other bits of research. So I did obviously read, like I said, the acknowledgements at the back, and you said you had spoken to someone about like the 80s vibe newsroom, and you also learned how to do the pasta. These things I'm like, oh, I love, I love that you're the, I'm like, oh yeah, can I come around yours? You make me some pasta. That sounds really good. So what was your favorite part of research for this book?
Um, well, the pasta was great. I was teaching a writing retreat in Tuscany, and one of the things to entertain the people who come on the course, the woman who organises the whole thing, she has people come in, and then she has an artist come in and they do some landscape painting, and then one night she had this chef come in, and so I joined in, why wouldn't I, and learned how to make this. And so then it was because, like I said at the beginning, it makes things authentic if you have done it or seen it or understand it. And as I was writing, I was thinking, this is turning into a bit of a cookery lesson. And then I thought,
Oh,
I don't
I loved
care.
it.
Yeah,
It was great.
I like that bit. But
Yeah.
also talking to Nick, the journalist, I was conscious that I needed this newsroom to be plausible, and it was in the 80s, and obviously pre-internet and pre all that kind of stuff. I read some Val McDermott novels because she was a journalist in the 70s and 80s, so there were a few things in everything in triplicate. I thought, right, write that down. And then I was reading a book on how to be a journalist, and I noticed in his bio he said he gave his age, and I thought, aha. So I got in touch with him, and he very kindly gave me some of his time, and I could say, did this happen, and what about this, and is it really like this, and what
I
will
love
is it
that.
really noise and smoke, and all the things that I imagine from TV films and what have you. And so he was able to tell me just how difficult it could be in a newsroom, how pressured, how hard it was for women. So that was great, and I really enjoyed talking to him as well because somebody who's been there is
Yeah,
going to with you, and you need to. I'm not a huge researcher because I just like the writing bit,
same.
but I do need to be. I need it to be plausible, and I need it. I need someone who might have been there, who might be reading my book, to say, yes, this is what happens. So in one of my others, there's a baby born in 1976 in a hospital. Well, obviously, I was alive in 1976, but I wasn't delivering babies. And I found a midwife who'd been working at that time. And I said, look, I've got this plot point and it might be a bit bonkers. And she went, no, no, that's exactly how it was. That's exactly how it was. And you
Really?
think, oh, okay, so that's good. And it also means when people go, well, that would never happen, I can say, well,
Yeah,
yeah,
it actually did.
found that out first. So
Yeah.
that's my favourite bit of research, I think. Going to places I love and wandering around and getting the vibe of a place and then talking to people who were where I need to be. And
Yeah.
those are the things I like.
See, I find that really hard because I get really like shy about things. I'm like one of these really loud, outgoing, completely not confident, don't want to actually speak to anyone people. I'm like that horrible juxtaposition of humanity. And but my husband, who says, "Oh, I'm not social," is actually really he'll go up and talk to people. So then he'll be like, we'll be in Greece or something doing like research, and I'm just there like, I don't actually want to dare talk to anyone unless I've had a drink. And then he'll be the one going and asking people, and he'll come and report back for me. So he's
Yeah,
like,
I need one of those. Yeah,
really?
because that's what email was invented for.
Oh
Get
yeah.
approach who you don't know. Actually wondering around. So we went to, I took my husband back to Sicily to see how different it was. And I didn't speak to a soul, not a soul. But I sat and I absorbed and I got the vibe and I walked on the streets so I knew where I was writing about and all that kind of stuff, but didn't actually speak to anybody. So I think we're as one on this.
Yeah, it's really hard. And I'm like, I always feel sick. I really want to learn. I mean, oh, that was another thing. That was another point that I wanted to say to you. Brings me around to another thing that I was going to say. When were you editing this book? Out of interest.
Where?
When were you editing this
Oh
book?
my
What,
God.
was it earlier this year?
Uh,
Or was it before
no,
that?
I haven't got a clue. I can't remember.
Okay, because I
Um,
have a highlighted point here. Because
okay. Oh, have I made a
we met
mistake?
face to face in January of this year.
Yes, we did.
And this says, how could you have children who spoke a language you didn't? That was surely unsustainable. And both of my children speak French and I don't speak French. And I'm going like, I feel called out. I
It's
feel
unsustainable, that.
seen. Like, okay, Imogen, I'll get on it. I'll learn French. I'll do what I can. I'm working on it. I honestly sat and I like put the book down, like, yes, it is unsustainable. Okay. I'll get there eventually. So yeah,
Yes, otherwise your children will be running rings around you.
no, they already do. I mean, yeah, but that did make me laugh. I did sit and have a chuckle, but it is
I
that
think it must have been before then because of the lead-in time that we have.
it
So
probably
I think it
was.
must have been before then. But I do
Unless
I
you
do
went
think
back and
that.
slipped it in, you just
Yeah, slipped it in because I met
yeah,
Francesca and she said she didn't speak French, and
it
how
was like
ridiculous
get a
is
dig
that?
in. It just made me laugh, but it is so true. And it's like when you go abroad and you want to research things, and if you're shy about, I mean, do you speak Italian or Sicilian at all?
Oh,
No, yeah, and that makes it harder because you don't want to be impolite and force people to speak
yeah.
English, but you want to know things. So my husband's really great at picking up any language and he will just give everything a try. When we're in Greece, he goes around trying to speak Greek and I'm not sure he's doing an amazing job, but they love it. So then he can
He
learn.
sounds like the perfect person to have with you on a research trip if you are of our kind of ilk.
Yeah.
That sounds like the perfect person.
He actually he is. Don't tell him, but he is. Yeah, it is. But when you do go abroad, it is that thing where it's not so easy to just like strike up a conversation about something
No, it
someone's
isn't.
about. But it also works when you're writing the Sicily. It's actually on my lap now. I'm doing that like it's there. The Sicily chapters because you're writing as Natalie, and she has no idea what's going on around her. So when you have that, and you've because you did stay there for summers, and you've actually lived that experience, and you know what it's like to kind of look around and go like what? What's everyone talking about? It is, it feels really genuine because you have that genuine experience, which is really good. It was a great book.
And you can put your thank you. You can put yourself in to people's situations. This is what always makes me laugh when they say, "Well, you can't write this and you can't write that." And I said, "Well, it's just imagination. It's just imagination. You're writing, becoming a different character
Yeah.
is just using your imagination and putting yourself in their shoes, and
And
that's
research, like you
empathy.
say, you check your facts, and I find it
Absolutely.
really really hard because me and my husband are very much we're people of planet Earth, we're people of this universe. And
Yeah.
although, I don't think cultural appropriation is right, equally, I feel like I've got human culture. I embrace
Yeah.
all human culture. I am an immigrant living in France.
Yeah.
I'm very much, I just want to be able to travel and meet people and open my heart and my mind up to different people. So, as you say, you should then be able to go, right, well, let's put myself in that situation. Let's think about how, we're all fundamentally human. We're born the
And
same,
we're
we die
not
the
we're
same.
not stealing the culture. We are it's quite the reverse, I think. If I wanted to put something that I experienced in a different country in my books, that's because it touched me in some way. It made me grow as a person because then I learned that they do things differently, that they have in Sicily they have a different language to the Italians, which makes them a very proud island. All those kinds of things. So I'm not. I'm not trying to denigrate anything in any way. I am literally sort of paying homage to it in some ways that I'm,
That's what I think. Yeah, it's not like, yeah, I think it is exactly that. It's exactly that. And you've done a beautiful job. It's a wonderful book. And everyone has said, so I had a few people say we don't normally, especially competition winners and stuff who've won subscriptions. They've said like, this isn't normally a book I would pick up, but I really enjoyed it. So people who don't normally even read in this genre have been in the book club chat saying I literally they devoured it week one. And I'm like, half the group have read it and I'm only like here because I'm a really slow reader. And I'm going, oh, okay, everyone's already devoured this book. And I'm like trying to catch up. So, which is a really good sign and says just how wonderful the book is. So, just going to hold it up again. So, for anyone who hasn't already got a copy, they definitely should pick one up. And I just want to say thank you so much for your time today, Imogen. If is there any
Thank
like
you.
links you want to share with anyone watching this?
My website is imogenclark.com, so that's very easy to find. And then that's got links onto all my social media and things. And the next book is out in May, so keep an eye out for that.
Or what's it called?
It's called Model Conduct.
Oh, I knew that as well. I'd forgotten. I was like, oh, I'm sure I know, but I've forgotten. That's very exciting. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Imogen. Speak to you
And
again.
thank you for having me. Delight. Thank you. Bye.
If you haven't already joined Guy's Library, or you want to find out more about how we're supporting female authors in women's fiction and romance and small businesses across the UK with our book boxes, then head to guyslibrary.co.uk to find out more and to join us and subscribe. And don't forget, you can still read Imogen's book on ebook if you didn't want to join in with our book boxes, but we hope you will because you get amazing things like tabs, wonderful bookmarks with signed messages from the author. So Imogen actually went out of her way to do this for us. And we got lovely themed gifts, all sorts. So we really hope you'll join us, get lots of goodies, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.